I get a lot of questions nowadays if the patterns that I discuss in previous videos in multi-agent systems like the collaboration or the orchestration, router, etc., if those patterns are somehow related with other patterns that we see today in agentic architecture, like having a function calling, memory, being a React agent, if those are all related. And I understand the confusion because everything nowadays is agentic. But the more we advance into this topic, the more important it is for us to know how to differentiate different types of patterns. And more specifically, to differentiate when we are talking about inter-agent patterns, so to having different agents working together, or when we are talking about intra-agent patterns, and we are talking in this case more in terms of tools and capabilities that one agent has. So in today's video, we are going to explore these two levels of patterns. We are going to talk a bit about intra or inter-agent patterns, not so much because this is what we have been discussing in the previous videos, but we are also going to explore the intra-agent patterns, and more important, we are going to explain the difference between the two of them. Let's go. So let's start for something that is already more familiar to us from my previous videos. Inter-agent patterns, or as it is more commonly used, multi-agent patterns. And the biggest characteristic of these patterns are the fact that we are building a team of agents and we are somehow connecting them to bring or to resolve a complex task. And this is not new. This concept of a multi-agent systems already exists from the 80s when, for example, we start introducing more advanced robotics in factories, for example. So to have this concept of an agent. And then there was this need to make agents talk with each other in a system in an organized way. So if we translate this into AI nowadays, this happens when we have more than one agent, for example, spread across different systems that they need to work together to achieve a more complex task. So the important thing in here is that we are having completely isolated agents, each one of them configured in its own way, and they need to communicate with each other. And the architecture here is how we are going to make those agents communicate. Are we going to use a sequential pattern? Are we going to use a router pattern, for example, an orchestration pattern, a collaboration? So these were the ones that I talked in previous videos. How can different agents talk with each other? And this is a multi-agent system, in this case, multi-agent or multi-AI agent system, and it's very different from intra-agents. So let's go now explore what intra-agents are. If you go to ChatGPT, you can see that you have an input where you can give a certain request to ChatGPT, but right below there, you have some options where you can activate or disable capabilities for the ChatGPT, right? So you can add the capability of web search for the agent to be able to search all over the internet. You can give him capability of Canvas to generate code, or you can give him a capability of deep research if you want him to give you a full research article of a certain characteristic. So in here, if we explore what is happening under the hood, you will see that ChatGPT is not calling different agents from different systems to perform actions. What we are doing is simply giving more or less capabilities to the agent. And we have a lot of different ways we can extend capabilities nowadays. One of the first ones appearing was tools, to have the capability of defining tools for an agent to call. Then it was introduced the MCP protocol to facilitate the scalability of those tools, creating a sort of a library of tools, resources, and prompts. But we also have other capabilities like a memory, giving memory to an agent. That is also a capability, giving him the possibility to fetch data from a table using a RAG pattern. So all these characteristics, they are not, or they do not facilitate communication between agents. They simply give more capabilities to one agent. And this is the most important thing of an intra-agent design pattern, is that we are simply configuring one agent, what we want one agent to do. And this is the biggest difference between the previous patterns that I was discussing, because the previous patterns, they were related of how agents communicate with themselves. In here, we are talking about how an agent behaves, which capabilities does he have. And this is the intra-agent patterns. Why it is so important for us to differentiate between the two of them. And in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons for us to do it is because agentic architecture will continue to evolve in these next years, and the scenarios will become more and more complex as we go through this AI world and we offer more capabilities to the world. And because of that, any architecture or any agentic architecture will have to know the difference between having a system with many agents talking together to achieve a complex task, or having a system with one agent with more or less capabilities. And the reason why an architect needs to know how the two work is because they are very different in the way how we build them. The protocols that we use to make agents communicate with each other are very different of the way we configure an agent and we give him more or less capabilities. So the two have very different ways of being built. Also, the two give different results. But also, another reason that we should differentiate between the two of them is that we need to reduce the noise that exists nowadays all over the social media and all over the places where there is a discussion around agentic architecture. You can see from time to time images, posts, or articles on the internet that mix completely the patterns between the two of them. I've already saw posts in the past that mix capabilities of an agent with patterns between agents. And I do believe that this causes a lot of confusion when we are talking of very two different, distinct things. So you might ask, okay, but if I have a sequential pattern, so doing something and then doing a second thing after the first one is finished, are we talking about a multi-agent system or are we talking about an intra-agent system? It depends. Because are you talking about a sequential pattern between tasks to be done by one agent? For example, I want one agent that receives the question. I want him to detect if there is a tool calling. I want him to call a tool. After calling a tool, I want him to summarize the results of the tool and give it to the user. So these three steps are sequential, but we are talking of something that happens inside of that agent. So the agent decides to do that on his own. So this sequential pattern we are talking of an intra-agent design pattern. But if we are talking about a sequential pattern of having an agent from system A that receives some information, digests that information, performs researches, can do a lot of things inside of that agent, then gives a result. After giving that result, a second agent picks that result and performs another set of actions, and then a third agent and a fourth. We are talking about also a sequential pattern, but we are talking about between agents. So one agent gives the result to another agent for him to continue. So we are talking about a multi-agent system. So you can see how the same design pattern or the design concept of having sequential actions can exist in both ways, but it is different because in one case we are using just one agent and it's basically the tasks that he does. And in the other way, we are talking about agents giving tasks from one to the other. And the cool thing about this is that you can compare this situation with us humans. You can have someone studying the way a certain team can work together, right? If a team is in a project and someone decides, okay, for this project, we are going to use a hierarchical pattern. So this person A is the leader. Then we have these three managers, and then we have these three executors. This is a pattern. Or we can have a team that there is no leader, they all collaborate in the same level. So in this case, when we are designing the way a team works, we are doing a multi-agent system. But we can also say, oh, what is the difference between an engineer or a researcher? What is the difference between a researcher and, for example, a worker, an artist? For example, an artist. What is the difference between a research and an artist? And we can say that a researcher, he can use the tool of researching articles through the internet and so on, so he can do research. And an artist, he can use image generation because he is a painter and he designs images. So we are talking inside of a person. What are the capabilities that a certain role of a person has? And this is intra-agent. So in today's video, we talked about two different ways of how we can define agentic patterns. We can talk about patterns that are between agents, inter-agents or multi-agent systems, as it is mostly known, or we can talk about patterns intra-agents, so patterns that exist inside of an agent being more common capabilities or tools of how we want an agent to behave. And we finalized this video explaining why it is so important for us to differentiate these two concepts. I hope this video helped you, at least reducing the confusion or the noise that might exist nowadays in social media, so that it can help you bringing a better design, explaining better the intentions and the use cases that we want to build with AI. Follow me for more videos related with this. Have a great day.